Hi, my name is Jiso and I'm reading Master Dōgen's Shōbōgenzō, and we are on Gyoji, which is pure conduct and observance of precepts, and this is part 1. There is a Gyoji part 2. We're on paragraph 119. The 8th patriarch, the Venerable Maya Kasyapa, was the rightful successor of Shakyamuni. Throughout his life, he devotedly maintained the practice of the 12 dutas, never tiring of them at all. Is he going to tell us what the 12 dutas are? Ascetic practices, for example, Sutra of 3,000 Dignified Forms, Sutra of 12 dutas preached by the Buddha. No, it doesn't really tell us anything. The 12 dutas are as follows. I should have just read on. 1. Not to accept people's invitations, but to go begging for food every day. Also, not to accept money for even a single meal for a monk. 2. To lodge on a mountain, not to lodge in someone's house, a populated district or a village. 3. Never to beg clothes from people, and not to accept clothes that people offer, but to take clothes off dead people which have been discarded by gravesides, and to mend these clothes and wear them. 4. To lodge under a tree in the countryside. 5. To eat 1 meal a day. This is called, for instance, sumka sunai. 6. Not to lie down in the daytime or the nighttime, but only to sit, and when sleepy to walk about. This is called, for instance, sunai sashakyu. To have 3 robes, not to have other robes, and not to sleep in bedclothes. 8. To stay among graves, not in Buddhist temples, and not in human society, looking at the skulls and bones of dead people, to sit in zazen and pursue the truth. 9. Only to want to live alone, not to want to meet people, and not to want to sleep together with people. 10. First to eat fruit and then eat a meal, and never to eat fruit after finishing a meal. 11. Only to want to sleep in the open, not sheltering under a tree. 12. Not to eat meat or dairy produce, and not to apply herbal oil to the body. Strange that in that list there's a thing about eating fruit. These are the 12 dutas. The Venerable Maya Kasyapa did not regress and did not stray from them throughout his life. Even when he received the authentic transmission of the Tathagata's right Dharma-eye treasury, he never relented in his dutas. Once the Buddha said, "You are already an old man, you should eat a monk's meal." The Venerable Maya Kasyapa said, "If I had not met with the Tathagata's appearance in this world, I would have been a Pratyeka Buddha, living in mountains and forests all my life. Fortunately, I met with the Tathagata's appearance in the world, and I have experienced the Dharma's goodness. Nevertheless, I will not eat a monk's meal in the end." The Tathagata praised him. On another occasion, Maya Kasyapa's body had become emaciated because of his practice of the dutas, and it seems that many monks looked upon him with disdain. Then the Tathagata warmly summoned him and offered Maya Kasyapa half of his seat, and the Venerable Maya Kasyapa sat on the Tathagata's seat. So remember, Maya Kasyapa was the senior member of the Buddha's order. We could not enumerate all the examples of pure conduct and observance of precepts that he practiced through his life. That's nice. The 10th patriarch, the Venerable Pārsva, swore, "Through my life, my side will not touch a bed." Although this was the pursuit of the truth of an old man of 80, he thereupon quickly succeeded to the one-to-one transmission of the great Dharma. Because he never let time go to waste, in only 3 years of effort he received the one-to-one transmission of the right eye of Sambodhi. The Venerable One had spent 60 years in the womb, and he left the womb with his hair already white. He vowed never to sleep like a corpse, and so was called Kyo Sonja, the side saint. Even in the dark, his hands radiated brightness. He could pick up the sutras of the Dharma. This was a mysterious trait with which he was born. Certainly sounds mysterious. The side saint, more on the side saint. The side saint was approaching the age of 80 when he left home and dyed the robe. A young man of the region, having invited him for the midday meal, said, "Foolish fellow, doddering old man, how can you be so dim? In general, those who have left family life have two practices. First, they practice the balanced state. Second, they recite the sutras. But now you are already a feeble old man. There is nowhere for you to progress. Your footprints will dirty pure streams. You will know the satisfaction of meals to no avail." At that time, hearing the denunciations, the side saint duly thanked the people present and vowed to himself, "Until I understand the meaning of the Tripitaka, eradicate the desires of the triple world, attain the 6 mystical powers, and accomplish the 8 kinds of release, my side shall not touch a bed." After that, he practiced walking about and sitting in stillness without missing a single day, and he meditated while standing still. In the daytime, he researched and learned theory and teaching, and at night he quieted his thoughts and concentrated his mind. In 3 years of continuous effort, he mastered the Tripitaka, eradicated the desires of the triple world, and attained the wisdom of the 3 kinds of knowledge. People of the time, out of respect, therefore called him the side saint. So, the side saint was in the womb 60 years before first leaving the womb. Might he not have been making his effort even in the womb? After leaving the womb, he was nearly 80 when he first sought to leave family life and learn the state of truth, 140 years after he was conceived. Truly, he was an outstanding individual. At the same time, this doddering old man must have been more doddering and older than anyone. He reached old age inside the womb and reached old age outside the womb as well. Nonetheless, paying no attention to the scorn of people of the time, he single-mindedly and unrelentingly kept his vow, and thus his pursuit of the truth came to realization in only 3 years. Who could feel at ease looking at his wisdom and thinking of emulating him? Do not worry about old age. It is hard to know what this life is, whether it is a life or not a life, whether it is old or not old. The 4 views, as we have seen already, are different, and the views of all kinds of beings are different. Concentrating our resolve, we should just strive in pursuit of the truth. We should learn in practice that in pursuing the truth, we are as if meeting life and death itself. It is not that we pursue the truth in life and death. People today imagine that they will set aside the pursuit of truth when they reach 50 or 60, or reach 70 or 80. This is extremely stupid. We are conscious of having lived for so many years and months, but this is just the restless activity of the human soul, not the state of learning the truth. Do not notice whether you are in your prime or past it. Determine solely to learn the state of truth and pursue the ultimate. Emulate the side saint. Do not be particularly concerned about becoming a pile of dirt in a graveyard. Give it no special consideration. If you do not single-mindedly strive to be saved, who will be inspired by whom? When we are vainly wandering in the wilds, skeletons without a master, we should realize right reflection, as if making an eye. The 6th patriarch was a woodman in Shinshu district. It would be difficult to call him an intellectual. He had lost his father in infancy and had been brought up by his old mother. He made a living as a woodman in order to support her. After hearing one phrase of a sutra at a town crossing, he left his old mother at once and went in search of the great Dharma. He was a man of great makings, rare through the ages. His pursuit of the truth was in a class by itself. To cut off an arm may be easy, but this severance from love must have been enormously difficult. This abandoning of obligation could not have been done lightly. Having devoted himself to the order of Obai, he pounded rice day and night, without sleep or respite, for 8 months. In the middle of one night, he received the authentic transmission of the robe and bowl. Even after getting the Dharma, he still carried the stone mortar on his travels and continued his rice pounding for 8 years. Even when he manifested himself in the world and preached the Dharma to deliver others, he did not set aside the stone mortar. This was his maintenance of practice, rare through the ages. Baso of Kozai sat in Zazen for 20 years, and he received the intimate seal of Nangaku. It has never been said that he neglected Zazen when, having received the Dharma, he saved others. When students first came to him, he unfailingly caused them intimately to receive the mind seal. He was always first to go to communal work. Even until old age, he did not let up. Followers of Rinzai today are in Kozai's stream. Master Ungan learned in practice alongside Dogo in the order of Yakusan. Having made a pledge together, Ungan and Dogo did not put their sides to a bed for 40 years. With one taste, they investigated the state in experience. Ungan transmitted the Dharma to Great Master Gohan of Tozan. Tozan said, "Wanting to realize wholeness, I have sat in Zazen and pursued the truth for 20 years already. Now that truth has been transmitted far and wide." Great Master Kokaku of Ungozan Mountain in former days resided in a hut on Sampo Mountain, at which time he was served meals from the god's kitchen. The Great Master, on one occasion, on visiting Tozan, decisively attained the great state of truth, after which he returned once more to his hut. When the angels came again to serve food to the Master, they searched for 3 days but could not find him. No longer expecting heavenly cuisine, he saw the great state of truth as his sustenance. We should try to imagine his determination. Zen Master Daiichi of Hyakujo-zan Mountain in former years was the attendant monk of Baso. From then until the evening he entered nirvana. He never had a day when he did not labor for the benefit of the monks and for the benefit of other people. Thankfully, the traces remain of his "a day without work is a day without food." Zen Master Hyakujo was already an old man, with many years as a monk behind him, but in the communal work he still exerted himself alongside those in the prime of life. The monks felt sorry for him. Though people pitied him, the master would not quit. In the end, at work time, they hid his work tools, and when they would not give the master his tools, the master did not eat all day. His motive was that he was unhappy not to be able to join in with the work of the monks. This is called the tale of Hyakujo's "a day without work is a day without food." The profound customs of the Rinzai sect, which have swept through the great kingdom of Sung today and those of monasteries in all directions, are in many cases the practice as conduct and observance of Hyakujo's profound customs. When Master Kaiosai lived as master of Kaiosai Temple, the local deities could not see the master's face, for they had no means of doing so. Zen Master Gichu of Sanpei-zan Mountain in former times had been served meals from the kitchen of the gods. After he met Daiten, however, when the gods tried to find the master again, they could not see him. The late master of Dai Mountain said, "For 20 years I have been on Isan Mountain. I have eaten Isan meals. I have shat Isan shit. But I have not studied the way of Isan. I have only been able to raise a castrated water buffalo. All day long it is in a state of conspicuous brightness." Remember, the one castrated water buffalo was raised by 20 years of conduct and observance on Isan Mountain. This master had previously learned and practiced in Hyakujo's order. Quietly reflect on his state during those 20 years and never forget it. Though there are people who study the way of Isan, there may be few examples of conduct and observance that is not to study the way of Isan. Master Jushin, titled Great Master Shinsai of Kannon-in Temple in Joshu, first established the will to pursue the truth when he was 61 years old. Carrying a canteen and a travelling staff, he set out on foot to visit masters in all directions, constantly telling himself, "If there is a child of 7 who is superior to me, I shall question him or her at once. If there is an old man of 100 who is inferior to me, I shall teach him at once." With this attitude, he strove to learn Nansen's way for 20 years. When he was 80, he first took residence as master of Kannon-in Temple in the east of Joshu City, then taught and guided human beings and gods for 40 years. He never petitioned donors with a single letter, and so the monk's hall was not large. There was no front hall and no rear stand. Once, a leg of the zazen platform broke. He roped it to a charred piece of burnt-off wood and carried on practicing for years and months. The temple officers asked to replace this leg of the platform, but Joshu did not allow it. We should recognize here the usual customs of the eternal Buddha. Joshu lived in Joshu Joshu's a city. Joshu lived in Joshu from the age of 80 onwards, after he had received the Dharma. He had received the authentic transmission of the right Dharma, and people called him the eternal Buddha. Others, who have never received the authentic transmission of the right Dharma, must be less important than the master. At the same time, people other than he, not having reached the age of 80, are likely to be stronger than the master. How might we, who are in our prime, yet unimportant, equal him, the old man who is profoundly venerable? We must spur ourselves to pursue the state of truth and to practice conduct and observance. For those 40 years, they kept no worldly goods, and in the stores there was no rice and grain. Sometimes they would gather chestnuts or sweet acorns for food. Sometimes they would spin out a meal again and again. Truly, these were the usual customs of the dragons and elephants of the past, regulated conduct that we should love and admire. Once Joshu preached to the assembly, "If you spend your whole life not leaving the monastery, not talking for 10 years or for 5 years, no one will be able to call you a mute. Afterwards, how could even the Buddhas do anything to you?" This preaches conduct and observance. Remember, by not talking for 10 years or for 5 years, we might seem to be stupid, but even if by virtue of the effort of not leaving the monastery we are beyond talk, we are not mutes. The Buddha's state of truth is like this. Those who do not hear the voice of the Buddha's state of truth can never possess the truth which is non-mute, being beyond talk. So the finest example of conduct and observance is not to leave the monastery. Not to leave the monastery is complete talk, is complete talk in the state of liberation. The extremely stupid neither know themselves as non-mutes, nor let themselves be known as non-mutes. No one prevents them, but they do not let themselves be known as non-mutes. Those who will not hear that to be a non-mute is to have attained the ineffable, and who do not know that to be a non-mute is to have attained the ineffable, are pitiful individuals. Quietly practice the conduct and observance of not leaving the monastery. Do not blow east and west with the east and west wind. Even if for 10 years or for 5 years the spring breezes and the autumn moons go unrecognized, the state of truth will be present, transparently free of sound and form. Expressing the truth in this state is beyond our own knowing and beyond our own understanding. We should learn in practice how valuable is each minute of conduct and observance. Do not wonder whether not talking might be vacuous. Entry is one monastery. Getting out is one monastery. The way of the birds is one monastery. The entire universe is one monastery. I love that last sentence. Thanks for listening.